Fear is Donald Trump's weapon of choice. Divide and conquer is his one repugnant strategy. Law firm against law firm, media outlet against media outlet, neighbor against neighbor. He counts on us being too scattered to oppose him, too scared of a truth social media post or an executive order, or the very real threat of physical harm for anyone to push back. So there's something incredibly powerful when someone looks King Donald in the eye and says simply and with her whole being, piss off.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your courage to be here, because in the society that we live in today, it takes a lot of courage to say that you're supporting President Trump. And you know, it's really quite interesting how people have tried to manipulate people and how to intimidate people and change their minds. This has been going on since we've been in America. In the media, they like to pick on him, any little thing. You know, he's not perfect, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. The only one who ever was perfect was Jesus, and they crucified him. Let me tell you something. If he's a racist, he's an awfully bad one.
There's an old political saying, a lie can go all around the world before the truth even finishes putting on its shoes. For almost 10 years, the main story in the media has kept saying that Donald Trump is like some kind of political supervillain. We already know this picture by now. Racist, controlling, someone who will end democracy as we know it. But sometimes, someone comes in and calmly breaks that story apart without shouting, without getting angry, and without all the usual TV drama. That's exactly what happened when former HUD Secretary Ben Carson came on stage and slowly explained the facts the media usually doesn't talk about. So, grab something to drink and stay with this, because the moment at 10:03 is where the whole story starts falling apart by itself. If you want more simple breakdowns of political moments the media acts like never happened, hit subscribe and stay here.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your courage to be here, because in the society that we live in today, it takes a lot of courage to say that you're supporting President Trump. And, you know, it's really quite interesting how people have tried to manipulate people and how to intimidate people and change their minds. This has been going on since we've been in America. You know, you go back to the days of slavery. You know, in a lot of the states, there were more slaves than there were owners. So what did they do? They had to divide the slaves. So they told the ones in the house, you're better than the ones in the yard. And the ones in the yard, you're better than the ones in the field. And then after slavery was over, the light-skinned ones, you're better than the dark-skinned ones. And on it went, trying to divide people. Today, they say, if you are a conservative, then you are somehow an Uncle Tom, you're a horrible person, you're a demon. What a bunch of crap, you know, but, you know, it's been going on for hundreds of years. And it's really time to put a stop to it. So I am very happy to see that you have the courage to come out. You know, it doesn't bother me anymore, because, you know, I only worry about what God thinks. I don't worry about what these other people think. But, you know, sometimes people ask me, what happened to you? You changed. I haven't changed. I changed about 35 years ago because, you see, I grew up in Detroit, a bastion of liberalism. They call it progressivism now. They keep changing the name. But anyway, then from there to Boston, a bastion of liberalism. Back to Detroit, and then to New Haven, Connecticut, a bastion of liberalism, and then to Ann Arbor, Michigan, a bastion of liberalism, and then to Baltimore, Maryland, a bastion of liberalism. So I had no chance. I was a liberal. I was way out there. And then I did something that liberals are never supposed to do. I listened to a conservative. I listened to Ronald Reagan. And I said, you know, he doesn't sound like a horrible racist person. He sounds just like my mother. And at that point, I started thinking for myself. And that made a big difference. It made a big difference in my medical career, too. I didn't do what everybody else did. I always started thinking out of the box. How do you solve this problem? And that's the reason that God gave us these complex brains. Your brain has billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. It remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard. It can process more than 2 million bits of information in 1 second. Would God give you something like that just so that you can be a sheep and follow what somebody else tells you to do? Or to think for yourself? And you know, don't you find it fascinating that so many people say the president's a racist? He's a horrible racist and everything he does. Well, you know, it seems to me like some years ago, Jesse Jackson actually gave the president an award in New York City because he opened so many opportunities for black people. Is that what a racist does? And then when he moved to Palm Beach, he was right on the forefront to fighting the clubs who were not admitting Jews and blacks. Does that sound like what a racist would do? He is the one who finally got the Second Chance Act done. Does that sound like what a racist would do? When he took office, he brought the office of HBCUs to the White House so it could get appropriate attention, more money than ever. Opportunity zones so that people could take this money and direct it to the places where people did not have opportunities before. An economy where you have the lowest unemployment rates for black people in history. And it goes on and on and on.
Before Carson even talks about policy, he starts with something more important, the way people act about political disagreements. He tells the crowd that just supporting Trump today takes courage, not because of policy arguments, but because of the social pressure around it. Then he explains a pattern that has happened again and again in American history. Divide people, house versus field, light versus dark, left versus right. His point is very simple. Division is one of the oldest tools in politics. Carson even says something most politicians would not say. He spent most of his life around liberal places. Detroit, Boston, Yale, and Arbor, Baltimore. He says he used to be a liberal too, until he did something that almost feels not allowed in modern politics. He listened to the other side, especially to Ronald Reagan. And instead of hearing a bad guy, Carson says he heard ideas that sounded like what his own mother taught him: responsibility, opportunity, and making your own choices. That moment, he says, changed how he looked at everything, politics, medicine, and solving problems. But the speech builds up to one main moment. And this is a line that hits the hardest, the heated clip at 10:03. Carson calmly lists policies and results from the Trump presidency: more funding for HBCUs, opportunity zones made to bring investment to struggling communities, changes in criminal justice through the Second Chance Act, and record-low black unemployment during the Trump economy. Then he says a line that cuts straight through the whole story. If Trump is a racist, he's a pretty bad one. No shouting, no long pause, just a sentence that makes a room and everyone watching think about the contradiction. Carson's main point is not just about defending a politician. It's about something bigger, thinking for yourself instead of repeating political stories. Because, in his view, real racism is not disagreement. Real racism is telling people what they're allowed to think because of their skin color, and whether people agree with Carson or not. The reason this moment stands out is simple. He doesn't force anyone to believe him. He just puts the facts out there and lets people think about them. If you want more simple breakdowns of political moments the media skips, subscribe to the channel and stay sharp.